Hi Gemini, welcome to your reading. If you're new to the channel, I do timeless readings, which means that whenever you find this video is when you're meant to hear the messages within it. And in case you subscribe, I upload my new videos for Gemini and Sagittarius on Wednesdays. Also, for those of you guys who are interested, the deck that I'm using today is called the Mystic Mondays Tarot. And as always, if you guys are interested in getting a personal reading, the link is in the description below. Let me just go grab that card that fell. And just as a heads up, sometimes the cards like to flip over in the deck. I do see them, however, I really only take the cards that jump out. And my aim here is to get you guys roughly 8 or 9 cards, and then we can get started on your reading. All right, Gemini, so I do want to take a time to remind you guys that if you enjoy the reading, the best way to let me know is by leaving a like or a comment. But your overall energy here is the Six of Cups. Now, the Six of Cups to me is very promising energy, especially if you're interested in some kind of a love relationship right now. The Six of Cups to me is very dreamy kind of energy, right? It's very symbolic of sort of that energy that we were in when we fall in love for the first time, or sort of like feeling very childlike. It's a card that's very deeply rooted in nostalgia. So I feel like a lot of the things that you're doing right now are very reminiscent of things from the past. And I feel like to some extent you're comfortable with that, but it almost feels like some of the things that you maybe got over in the past are sort of coming back up, and you're like, but I already worked on this, or something like that. Because I see a lot of positive energy here, but I also see a lot of blockages, right? The King of Pentacles to me symbolizes sort of the stability. And in particular, I feel like a lot of you guys want somebody to come in who is very stable and able to sort of take care of themselves, because I feel like you're very much, especially in love, having to deal with all these kinds of people who sort of ask you to mommy them, either directly or indirectly. And I feel like you're kind of sick of that, because I see the Temperance here in reverse. Now, the Temperance card is a card that talks about proportion and balance, right? So when I see the Justice card, I know that it's like a 50-50 balance, 50-50 split, but this is more of like a food recipe, right? You can't just like, if you're baking a cake, you can't throw in a pound of vanilla extract and then like a pound of flour, right? Like that cake's gonna be inedible. So that's where you're at right now, is that I feel like you've been in a lot of relationship dynamics where you've tried to have things sort of play out in a way that's healthy and functioning, but because of this sort of like dynamic where you're dealing with people who aren't sort of on the same page as you, it sort of requires more of your cooperation. And like, okay, fair enough, like you can give a little bit more sometimes, but if you can't receive that much back from them, and if you're in a point where there's this huge imbalance in the relationship, then it's not sustainable. And the Four of Cups to me really sort of further cements that idea, because the Four of Cups oftentimes talks about dissatisfactions in relationships, or even like unhappiness, not wanting to continue forward with what you have, wanting more than what you have, right? And I feel like that's all pointing towards back this energy of this dynamic where you're doing all the work. And I feel like if this Four of Cups was in the upright, I would be a lot more comfortable with it. But because it's in the reverse, and the Sun's also in reverse, and the Tower's in reverse, I feel like you're not really working on that change, right? I feel like you've been sort of a little bit stagnant in this pattern of yours. And like I was saying, like with the Six of Cups, this has to do with our past and the things that we've been dealing with. So I feel like this maybe could be a thing that you haven't been putting all that much attention to lately, but like you've been working on it in the past, or it's like a cycle that's returning from the past. And like if this four, like I see all of this because this entire row is in the reverse, right? So it feels like this entire row is very much connected. And if this King of Pentacles is in the upright, then you have sort of this domino effect where all these cards then become in the upright. Because I certainly see a story here where you're dealing with people who aren't on your level and who can't really take care of themselves, and you're sort of babying your partners. And that leads to you repeating the cycle, which blocks your Sun card, which is the happiest card in the deck. It blocks sort of like your successes in the relationships. And the Tower card is indicative of a situation that you're not really letting go. So I feel like it all has to do here with the Temperance card, your proportions, your balance in the relationship, right? But here with the Moon card is very interesting because the Moon card talks about our subconscious, our psyche, secrets, things that are unknown, dreams, and sort of the spiritual and metaphysical, right? So I feel like you guys are working through a lot of possibly like those deep inner sort of childhood wounds, right? Where perhaps you were in a position of giving and giving and giving, and as a result, like that comes sort of naturally to you in relationship dynamics, but like at some point you need to really work on that so that you're able to be in relationships where you receive just as much as you give, right? Or at least are giving and receiving in a proportion that is healthy, because the fact that the Temperance card is in reverse leads me to believe that the proportions are completely out of whack. And I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just like, I don't mean that in a rude way. It's just that like sometimes the proportions don't really work out to the best way, and you end up being in that position where you give more than you receive. Or even if for some of you, it could be that you're taking more than you're giving, right? And right, and I don't want to be like rude or call anyone out or anything, but like you need to sort of acknowledge what your particular wounds are and what your particular struggles and strife are, and then by doing that you're able to work on that and then move forward. And that's why the Moon card is here. And it's no coincidence that you also happen to have the World card and sort of this Tower energy, because the Tower energy is going to be a very big dramatic sort of moment where you have all these realizations and you have all these moments of clarity. And then that's going to link straight into this World card where it's like a complete game changer and everything's going to be different. And I don't think it's any kind of coincidence at all that the final card here in the spread is the Lovers card, which happens to be the card of Gemini. I feel like more than just like romantic love, this is symbolic of a balance that you're able to achieve, of compromises that you're able to strike up and be able to sort of create that path for that balanced, equal partnership, right? Because we have all this connected energy, and I feel like it all stems from this Moon card here, which is the blockages that you have and the blockages that you create in sort of your roles in the relationships. And I feel like if you do some inner work on this, it'll have this huge domino effect where you're attracting partners that are a little bit more on your page and a little bit more able to sort of have that equal dynamic with you guys. And then once you do, you know, you're going to have the Sun card in the upright. You're going to have your moment of the Tower, which I don't think is very dramatic or painful in this particular sense, because the Tower card gets a lot of bad reputation for being very painful and very dramatic and just devastating, but I don't think it's that at all. I think that like you're going to have this really big moment of realization, and it's going to be very relieving, very much like it's going to be really holistically good for you, I feel, because that is going to be the catalyst for you to be able to enter these sort of very healthy relationships. So sort of summarize up the reading. Certainly I feel like you guys are working on your sort of inner wounds that you may have had even from as far back as childhood, and that's going to lead to a huge, huge revolution in your life, emotionally and romantically. But that was your reading first time around, Gemini. If you enjoyed, please consider leaving a like or a comment because it really helps out the channel, and I personally really love to know if these readings resonate with you guys. But like I said before, I upload my new Gemini videos on Wednesdays, but in the meantime, you guys are more than welcome to watch any of my other timeless readings that I have up on the channel. And with that being said, I hope to see you guys next time for your next reading.